Hey folks, welcome back. We're back out in the shop. We're going to get these meat cleavers restored. Let me show you the cleavers that we got if you didn't watch them in the other video. We got this one that belongs to my youngest daughter, Sam. We need to refurbish it because it got rusty when somebody else used it. So she gave it to me to clean up. You can see the bottom here has a chip in the wood on the end of the tang, so we're going to redo the scales all the way through. So we're going to take these scales off, and then this one here needs quite a bit of work. We're going to take this mushroomed area off over here. We're going to file it down or grind it down, sand it down to where it's the right width again. We're going to clean this thing up. We're going to remove this bolster cap here on the end, and we're probably going to make a new one of those or go without a bolster, or maybe do a brass bolster instead of this hollow one. So let's get started. We need to get this one put in the vise over here. Alright, we got it all chucked up in the vise. The scale looks like it's going to come loose fairly easily, but hopefully that's the case. It's going to take a little chisel, come in from the end and work on the wood here. And as I thought, it's pretty brittle and coming off easy. I'm guessing is back in the day they just did the mechanical connection with the rivets. They didn't do any kind of epoxy or anything on here. That's why it comes off fairly easily. And even epoxy, if it was on there after a while, you know, heating and cooling and drying and the moisture and all that would probably cause it to let go after a while. That's why you always want to do a mechanical connection as well. You never want to do just epoxy. So these appear to be like aluminum rivets. They may even be like a Chicago screw. So let me get a couple pairs of pliers. We might be able to unscrew those. See what we got here. Alright, they're a little snug, so I'm not going to dink with that. I'm just going to get my heavy cutters and just cut these off. They can't be reused anyway, and they are pretty soft. Get into the screw on that one over there. And they are the Chicago screws. So what a Chicago screw is there'll be a flat slot on either side, and one side screws into the other. And you put a little indentation into the wood. I don't know if you can see that anymore. A small, slight countersink into the wood. And then tighten these screws, and then when you sand the screw head off to make it flush, it gets rid of that flat slot. but these are coming right out. All right. Got our piece of leather here in the vise to keep from screwing the blade up. But that's what she looks like. We're going to start cleaning her up. Alright, this other one with the bolster cap, we're just going to beat this off with the hammer. We already had it loosened. It should make this corner here. There we go. But it's pretty old and beat up, so we're not going to use that. So that one's ready to clean up. I think I'm going to get the sander out now, and I'm going to hit this top edge real quick. You can see we went real easy on that. You don't want to get too aggressive and get in here like this. You can do it early on when you have a little ways to get down to the base metal. But once you get close, you want to flatten your wheel out like this and keep things nice and flat. Otherwise you're going to have to cause yourself a lot of problems later. So I'm going to flip this over and do the same thing on the other side, but I'm not going to bore you with that process. So we've got the mushroom area sanded down on both sides. Again, we didn't get too aggressive because when we get on the belt sander, it'll take the rest of that down evenly with the rest. Now there's been some sins of the past done here on this blade. If you can see, somebody sharpened it like on a grinder or something. So while we have the flapper wheel out, we're going to get the flapper wheel flat on edge and try to address some of this so it'll be easier later with the belt sander. We're just going to kind of try to take the high spots off of this. And then we're going to look at areas where, like here where it's mushroomed out to where now it's deformed on the edge a little bit. So we're going to flatten that out on the belt sander and get a real nice edge on the back of this again. And it's just going to take time. As you can see, we got our magnet put in our vise now. So we can just take the cleaver now and stick it down. It's a real heavy magnet. So we'll take the flapper wheel on edge and we'll take care of this. We'll be back. So we've got a lot of the gouges taken care of. We're still not all the way there yet. You can probably still see some of the scratches in there. But before we true it up completely, you can see the way it's been sharpened over the years. There's little dips and valleys in the edge of that blade. So what we're going to do is we come over here on the belt sander and we're going to true this edge up to where it's nice and flat. And then we'll continue on with the flat wheel, taking care of that, or we might give the belt sander a try up here on the top of the belt, doing it that way. But let's do a little bit of this real quick. So we're going to re-bevel this, obviously, so that's why we're making this top edge true. And you can see I went over on the disc sander because it's got a wider profile, and we could true that edge up. There's a curve to the edge, which is fine. I don't think that's going to hurt anything. I think it kind of had a natural curve before, and we'll just sharpen it to that curve. But if you look edgewise now, there's no more dips and valleys in that. So I'm going to come back up here, and we're going to try to take some of these little dips out up here. All right, we've got this edge true, we've got this edge true, and if you look at this hole, I want to make this hole a little more symmetrical. It looks like we got a bigger, well, the gap's about the same here, but I want to round over this front and try to do the same gap here as we got here and here to make it look a little better. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Then we're going to take the guard off, and I'm going to use the rounded part, top of the wheel, to get this taken care of, because the flat side isn't getting in there very well. So I'll come back when that's done. All right, we got all the edges true. We went all the way around. Got everything nice and flat. We haven't done anything down here because we'll just hand sand this because it's really thin after we get the scales back on. But you can see we've been all the way around. We've got that hole a little more symmetrical. We took a little bit off the top up here. And we've been working a little bit on the bevel, but we got a lot more to do. There's somebody really did a number on this thing with the grinder, so we're having to get all those divots out. And let me show you what we're doing. So we're using the top of the belt up here because it's flexible. So as you sand, that belt will kind of wrap around that bevel and give us a real smooth surface. It'll kind of contour to it. Whereas if you had a straight bevel here, it's going to make a much more defined grind. So we want that little bit of give to give us a real even, nice sanding or grinding here. Otherwise, you'd get a real fine line. But that's what we're doing. It's going to take a lot more work. And then after we get this thing all dialed in pretty much, we're going to soak it in vinegar and get some of this rust off of it. And I'll come back when we throw it in there. All right, we've done all the sanding we want to do on it. We don't have any sanding to do on this one. So now what we're doing, we're soaking this thing in vinegar, or both of them. And we'll probably let that go for about 24 hours. I may come out later tonight and look at it and maybe flip it around or something. But that'll eat a lot of the rust off of that, and that's what we're looking for. And it'll help us clean it up quite a bit. We're probably not going to get all of the pitting out of it, but we'll do what we can, and we'll try to make it look kind of rustic as we go along, so it'll match that pitting. This blade had a curve in the tang right here. I don't know how malleable the metal is, but we took advantage of that curve to lay it in there in this tray so we could get the vinegar to come up over the blade. But that's going to do it for today on this project. Normally I would just continue with doing video and put it all together at the end, but I think I'm going to try to do these in stages to where it's not so hectic and I don't have to go back and find all the video and piece it back together. So we'll just end it for today. We'll come back on this project when we get back on it and continue on. We've got some other projects we got to do too. So remember, Mark Kelly Farm on Facebook. Like this video if you can. Helps the algorithm. And we'll see you back here next time on Mark Kelly Farm. Maybe even tomorrow. Bye.